Hello, welcome. This is Stoke the Fire. I'm Pamela Cuccinell, and Stoke the Fire is a weekly show that's the astrological forecast for the week. And then you get something very special in addition. And to know what that is, I'm going to introduce my friend and colleague, Susie Mazzoli.
Hi everyone, and the second part of our program after about 20 minutes of astrology for the week is where I do an activation and channeled meditation with the master teachers, and that rides on the information of what's coming up for the week and what we can work with spiritually. So it's like using the astrology, using the energy of the cosmos as a guide for deciding what parts of ourselves we can work with and develop spiritually. And as Pam said, we do this every week, Stoke the Fire. We've been doing it for many years now. We're happily now on YouTube and sharing this with a lot more people. If you would like the encapsulated version of what we do, you can go to stokethefire.guru, where we have a number of different packages to entice you to sign up and join us and be with us for the year or for a series of 6 weeks. And then you get the encapsulated version, which is edited down to just the essentials of astrology and the meditation that gets sent to your letterbox actually before the week starts so that you can really plan your week.
Right. Okay. Should I talk or you talk? Okay. So wonderful. That was a great introduction, Susie. And as Susie said, stokethefire.guru. If you want to find out how to get that information to you by subscription, we have a couple of deals to make it very easy for you. One of which is that you get a complimentary phone session with either Susie or myself. It's an amazing deal. So check us out at stokethefire.guru. So, the week of November 20th, 2017. Well, it begins with November 20th, which is one of the most important days of my year because it's my daughter's birthday. Okay, secrets out. I heart Scorpio. Not every astrologer or person will tell you they love the sign of Scorpio, but I do. Like all 12 signs, Scorpio has positive and negative energy around it. It's a polarity, what energetically happens on the spectrum, and we choose where we are with that energy. And we are at the tail end of Scorpio. Tail end of a Scorpio, of course, is where the stinger is. So if you have something that you want to address or think about as we move from Scorpio to Sagittarius, that's right. As we move from Scorpio to Sagittarius, it's time to really think about what do I need to modify, look at differently as I move into fire energy that's very fast moving and things come quicker. So Monday, the 20th, is a fabulous day to be thinking in terms of how to reconcile what is very disparate energy, because the signs of the zodiac that are right next to one another are very, very different. And it's almost like the universe planned to force that information on us with this particular year, because the moon sign is in the sign of Sagittarius, as Scorpio is releasing itself from the sun sign, and we move into Sag Sun on Tuesday, the 21st. So what we're looking at is we're looking at a day where do you want to take responsibility of commitment to something that you really feel a strong sense of justice for, or a sense of this is what I want to learn, teach, expand into. But it's not doing it light. Again, we're still at the tail end of Scorpio, so there's kind of a gel to, if you're going to do this, establish yourself in a certain way, know that you have to be able to weather through the whole process of it. Now, this is intensified because we're also in the last pass of Saturn being in the sign of Sagittarius. So there's a lot of information here on this particular day that's been about do this, feel good about this, feel a strong sense about this, and yet don't be afraid to be the warrior moving through whatever must be done to get this resolved. And I think this actually dovetails beautifully with what's been happening since Jupiter went into the sign of Scorpio. And when Jupiter went into the sign of Scorpio, it basically engaged or triggered Pluto, which is in the sign of Capricorn. That's because Scorpio is a sign that is linked to Pluto. It's also linked to Mars. And what have we seen over the past few weeks but absolute intense tsunami or domino of women or young men stepping forward, mainly women, but stepping forward to say, I was sexually compromised, harassed, made to feel lesser than by a powerful man. So here we are on this day as we're moving into truth will out, more statements coming out, more information coming out. And the question is, whatever it is that you're letting out, or however the Pandora's box is opening, are you ready, equipped, able to meet it wherever it needs to go? And that's, I'm not just talking about the news, I'm talking about anything that's going on in your life that's asking you to open up. Whatever is this deep secret, this hidden part, a piece of yourself that you don't usually acknowledge or pay attention to. And the more you lift it up, the more you're able to take it to the light and blast it to a new level. Good example of this, and I'll start racing along in the week very shortly, but a good example of this is when you feel yourself overwhelmed by something and there's a sense of resistance or not wanting to really delve into it, what's the first release? I mean, for some people it's chocolate, for other a glass of wine, for, you know, what is it that gets you to a place where you're sort of out of your restlessness and into a place where it's like, oh, okay, now I'm doing this familiar thing, whatever that familiar thing is. And it might be something that seems relatively healthy, like your familiar thing is that you throw a racquetball against the wall. But what is it that you're not really allowing to surface, that you're in some way arresting because there's just too much stirred up? This is what happens when we come off that Scorpio new moon that happened this weekend. It's about what is it that we can ignite, take power over, and really move in a way that's very forceful, but we can only do it if we know what's in the cellar. What is that thing, whatever that thing is, that can trip us up or pull us down or erupt at a time when we don't want it. So I think that the new moon that happened this weekend, Monday, is a terrific time to really kind of lay out, I'm going to stand in a more secure spot. I am going to move ahead with more direction. And I am not concerned, worried, or afraid about what's down in the cellar, because I know that it's part of me or part of my consciousness, that it's time to see in a different way or make friends with or make peace with. And I'm strong enough to do it. Part of the being strong enough to do it as the week starts to move along, when you decide what is it that you're investing in, declaring, making start in this new moon cycle, is that when we get to Tuesday, the 21st, we are really starting to race along. As I said, there's a picture between Venus and Pluto that really talks about put your money where your mouth is. It doesn't actually always have to be financial, but it's about what is it that you're really invested in, that you really believe in, that you're willing to make happen for love or money, love and money. And it's a very dynamic day for making things move in a way that's positive and you want to make it move. First, let me say Monday night, the moon went void, of course, at 7:26 p.m. Then it enters Capricorn at 2:14 a.m. Tuesday morning. When the moon is void, of course, we don't make any concrete overture or investment, because whatever it is we're making an appeal for, people do not feel connected to or invested in. So as of the 21st, when it moves into the sign of Capricorn, then things are much more textural in the sense of, okay, show me, I think I can make this happen, I'm willing to apply myself to it. That moves along as we go through. Oh, the sun enters Sagittarius at 10:05 p.m. on Tuesday night. Some of us will feel that energetic shift depending on how sensitive we are to Scorpio energy and then fire energy as it moves into Sag. But on the 22nd, the moon is in Capricorn and the sun is in Sag. Again, very disparate energy, because Sag and Capricorn are right next to one another. Sag is mutable fire, fast-moving ideas. Let's start getting things going. Capricorn is, let's do it the right way. Let's be methodical about it. I'm not so sure I want to take the risk. It's very slowing the process, which is can feel a bit as though stay in that place, just say, okay, more checks and balances, not necessarily a bad idea, but I still want to make happen what I want to make happen. The other thing that's happening on Wednesday, the 22nd, is that the planet Neptune goes direct. So what that means is the planet that has to do with spirituality, the mystical, the part of us that actually is not totally on the earth plane. So dreams, confusion, creativity. We call Neptune the highest octave of love because it represents how we're all connected in this big universal unconsciousness. When it goes direct, it's almost as though what is not really spoken about comes more on the surface. So things that are mystical, spiritual, become more places where people connect. People who are naturally intuitive or not even necessarily intuitive may get some hits that day. Everybody's intuitive. It's just a matter of if you're paying attention to it or not. And things that need to be adjusted with whatever the overall launch or game plan is, just do what needs to be done, because once we get to Thursday, the 23rd, the moon goes void, of course, at 5:33 a.m. It's void, of course, most of the workday. It goes into the sign of Aquarius at 3:14 p.m. And then it may feel like, wow, things are suddenly getting done. People are calling, they're answering your texts or emails, you're getting responses. There's a lot more electricity that happens very, very quickly, end of day Thursday. It's a great day to, you can hear how the heaviness that was in my voice just suddenly went up an octave. Well, that's what it feels like. It's just like, oh yeah, now I'm on. Somebody put the juice on, I can go. And that is supported by the fact that the moon in Aquarius is also supported by the other planets in the sky. So there's really this, it's almost like this chain reaction that what felt like beginning in the week, oh, this isn't quite coming together exactly as I might have liked, which things might have started to feel like they were gelling Monday, not quite going where you needed them to go Tuesday, Wednesday, really moving along by late afternoon Thursday. And it also happens to be the United States Thanksgiving. So there can be a lot of heaviness that day in the early part of the day. I would say don't overextend the cooking piece. You may also be involved with alternative ways of looking at this American holiday, which is fraught with a lot of lugubrious symbolism that doesn't really reconcile too well with what we know now of history and what the truth is. So people are creating new ways of doing Thanksgiving, new ways of coming together, celebrating. People are calling it Indigenous People Day, depending on where you are on the planet or the community you're involved in. So I wish you many blessings this day. Spirits really start to lift, as I said, late afternoon, evening. So find yourself in community and with people you really love to be with, or you really want to open up to. So might be doing some kind of volunteer work or work that makes you feel very connected with the larger community. This keeps going into Friday. So not being a shopper myself with Black Friday, I suppose one could do that kind of thing. If that's where your focus is, morning is not the easiest time. Once we get past late morning, then everything kind of opens up. It's easier to get around, do what you need to do. And that includes if you shop on the net, of course. But otherwise, I would say it's a great day to be outdoors, be doing something in community, be doing something that's about social action or some kind of movement you really care about, some kind of community you really care about. Aquarius, especially with these particular aspects, is really talking about how do we come together to create something new. And this is also tremendously strong and dynamic on Saturday. Saturday, the 25th, the moon goes void, of course, at 9:37 p.m. So prior to that point in time, this is a highly active day where a lot can get done. The snares and pieces that might feel a little thwarted can happen early afternoon. There's a configuration that if sometimes you're one of those people who gets into a crossroads where, okay, if I get my needs met, I'm not necessarily getting what I want. If I get what I want, I'm not necessarily getting my needs met. So if you find yourself this kind of either or sort of situation that feels a bit familiar to you and not really pleasant, remember that this is a transit. It should pass by mid-afternoon. So if there's a way you can delay or not engage or not, go down too much the woe is me trail, then do that, stay off that road. Do instead focus on things where what is in the process of discovery, what can I figure out or look at a different way, what kind of conversations can I have, what can I learn, open myself up to. It can be very stimulating for that sort of thing. The early part of the day on Saturday just really seems to move very quickly with any kind of connections that a person would make. And once we get past that, around 1:30 in the afternoon, all the times I give you are Eastern time, so please adjust depending on where you are. Once we get into late afternoon, evening, it's like everything opens up and the road is just going where you need it to go. I can't verify that this will be true if you're throwing yourself into holiday shopping. I don't really know about that. But even so, even if you are a person who that's what you love to do, you may find that people just sort of move in ways that accommodate or make things happen in an easier way than is usually structured. People seem to be very aware of one another, especially in the later part of the day on the 25th. And they're aware of one another in a way that empowers and supports. So once the moon goes void, of course, at 9:37 p.m., it's void until 3:04 a.m. early Sunday morning. And that void, of course, I would say just relax, do things that really you enjoy doing. I kind of warn against spending too much time on the internet, or you may find that you're on it for hours and hours and hours, because with the void, of course, it can be a rabbit hole sort of experience, unless, of course, that's what you like to do. Once the moon enters the sign of Pisces at 3:04 a.m. early Sunday morning, it moves into a place where we've got the sun in Sagittarius now and the moon in Pisces. So it's at that point where it's the first quarter moon, and also known as the half moon. And that's a point of friction and tension. Not necessarily a bad thing, although this particular quarter moon energy seems to speak a lot about get your communications clear. So with the moon in Pisces, this is kind of ramped up, because Pisces isn't necessarily known for its crystal clear clarity anyway. Pisces communicates a lot better through visual, through music, through sentences and words. That's not the domain necessarily of Pisces. I mean, poetry, stories, but direct speaking, not necessarily the greatest skill point. And that being said, it doesn't mean that you can't have great conversations on Sunday. It's just know that something may be missing. So if you're talking about something important, there's a piece that wasn't quite communicated, not necessarily intentionally. It's just it didn't go where it needed to go. So just pay attention if you're in any conversation that has an importance to it, where it's a follow-through thing, or what happens next, or how you do something. Make sure that as it's executed or later on, that you really do get a little more support and understanding, because I think you're going to need it. So we're going to talk again next Monday. And so basically, I wish you a really beautiful week with this. And now I turn it over to Susie.
Pam, you know, obviously I'm not the astrologer, you are the astrologer, so I'm allowed to ask really like dumb questions.
There are no dumb questions.
about astrology. So you said that Neptune goes direct on 11/22, so I'm always looking at the numbers, as you know. I'm very in that. So 11/22, the master numbers. How often does Neptune go direct?
Oh, once a year. Neptune's a very slow-moving planet, so it goes retrograde for 4 to 6 months, and then same with when it goes direct. So it depends on the year, but it's not, you know, it's not Mercury.
So it's a once a year occurrence kind of thing.
Pretty much. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just interested that it's happening on 11/22.
Right.
That 22 being a master number and so important in spiritual work, and I know that it has a lot to do with many mystical areas. But of course, the one that of course jumps out to me, what you said was the highest octave of love.
That's
And
right. Neptune is in Pisces right now and has been for quite some time because, again, it's a slow moving planet. Its orbit is 167 years. So it takes its time when it goes through a sign. And Pisces is a sign that's very linked to the planet Neptune. So this is it is a time that offers us potential for spiritual evolution and consciousness. And it's also, you're pointing out, it's going direct and it happens to be at 11 degrees and change. So.
wow. So it's 11 degrees on also the 11th month.
Right, right.
Doubling it to 22 for the day.
Right.
So that of course has a great deal of significance, of course, for all of us, and for those people that do work with the Indigenous Peoples Day or Thanksgiving Day. It is a day of spiritual awareness and of connectedness, whether you're feeling connected to family or to the plight of Indigenous people on this planet. It's definitely a day of connection and I would hope of a very deep reflection. And so let's go into a meditation that is connected to this theme and to these numbers. So for those of you that are new, we do a 10-minute meditation. It's very energetic. I advise that you you do not operate machinery while doing this activation, whether that's your driving a car or your spaceship or whatever it is that you use. And just to sit in meditation, remembering that meditation is a very, very deep state in our mind that completely alters the physiology of the body and gives us the opportunity to expand into what we call really the ultimate consciousness or the omnipresent awareness state. So as we do this together, the more of us that come together to do these little short, sharp 10-minute meditations, when we come together to do this, we are building up the field. And I believe, or perhaps have the knowing, that when we do this, we really are altering not only our own bodies and our own field, but also that of the world around us. So there is really a great meaning towards coming together and meditating together. And of course, this is backed up by so much science that's coming out now. And so much of what we're talking about, this interconnective field, is also being backed up by science, which I'm sure will come out now in our meditation. Okay, off we go. So close your eyes, enjoy yourselves, take a break, and here we go. Dear loved ones, we are the master teachers, and as we work together, we invite you now to drop into the heart center, bringing your awareness, your consciousness, your energy field into the center of your heart, into the center of your chest, into what we call the heart chakra. And as you do this, this is like a telephone call. This is like beaming you up to the mothership. This is like literally calling into what would be the global heart net or the cosmic heart net. When you bring your attention to the heart center, perhaps not to what we would call the personal heart center, where I'm in love with this and I'm in love with you, but that global, that divine heart center, which knows the frequency of love on such a deep level that there is not any longer a space. So I love you, you are over there, and in between you and me there is a space, but that space too is also love. That love is actually simply a frequency that is omnipresent, that exists everywhere, that is everywhere. The scientists might call this the plasma field or the electricity field, or perhaps someone who is spiritual or has a religious belief system might call it all love. We're simply going to call it all love. So it is love that connects the dots from here to there. It is this frequency, this very high frequency of love that is in the act of potentiating all the situations. So situations can go this direction, that direction, this direction, that direction. They can go multidirectionally and multidimensionally. And what is in fact so very important for people to understand is that they are in the creation of this frequency, and they are in the creation of, let us call it the pilot, that they can pilot in which direction this energy field goes towards. So it can go towards the left or to the right or up and down, or with the command it can go in all directions all of the time. And most human beings are predominantly, let us say perhaps even trained to love in a particular direction, a particular number of people, their spouses, their loved ones, their partners, the biological families perhaps from which they sprung, the biological families for which they have perhaps sprung themselves, and perhaps a small group of friends, and then love of other things that are non-human, be they animals, plants, minerals, situations, conditions, natural-made things, man-made things. There are these numbers of things, and each person has more or less a certain number of things that will fit into their list of 10 or their list of 20, or a number of people that they hold close to themselves. But what happens to your loved ones when you take this directional understanding of love and allow it to be an energetic flow that is multi-directional, multi-dimensional, multi-everything that we can even think of to say, that it is just something that exudes in all directions with that same velocity, that same capacity, that same type of passion, that same type of eagerness and enthusiasm that one might feel for their most beloved person in their life. What happens when people evolve spiritually, when they start to wake up, as you call it here, when they start to see through the veils and see through all the indoctrinations and see through all of the manipulations of mankind, then they begin to develop. And in that development, what is the most important and crucial development of what you would call enlightenment is in fact the ability to love. The ability to love in all directions, in every single way, and to love unconditionally, to love fearlessly, and to love with such understanding and such compassion. And many of your so-called religions speak of this love, and so many people that are on this planet profess to be religious and profess to belong to these religions. But how much of this love do you actually see? And how much of the love do you actually see being, let us say, curtailed or whipped into a different shape, so that I can love people of this religion, but I can't love people of that religion? And notice just how much broken hearts, how much damage, how much bloodshed is done in the name so-called of religion, which is essentially really supposed to be the practice of love. So dear loved ones, when you look at the human condition, you can see that there really is a big question mark about the real interconnectedness of humanity, the real interconnectedness of mankind. And each and every single one human being on this planet can contribute unconditional love to this morphic field of the species. It is clear that human beings are here to collaborate, to be together. You do not thrive by being separated and being by isolated. Human beings are here for each other, to love each other, just as they are here to be here for the planet, to love the planet and everything of this planet. So feel this unconditional bursting love that you can love every single being on the planet with just one of your heartbeats. Boom, 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 boom. It's possible to love everything in every direction. And this does not mean, dear loved ones, that you have to invite everybody to your house for dinner. It does not mean that you have to have absolute contact physically daily with every single person on the planet. It means that it is a state of heart, a state of mind, a state of being. And just as you look around in nature and you can see, for example, when you look at geese, when the geese are flying through the air and one of the animals, one of the birds has a problem flying and it comes down to the ground, immediately the geese that are beside it, 2 or 3 other geese, will immediately come, and they'll immediately come and be with that bird and not allow that bird to be alone. And they will be with that bird until that bird passes or until that bird gains strength to come back into the sky. And this is what human beings are. They are ultimately compassionate and caring. And this, dear loved ones, is deep, deep, deep inside every single human being. And it can be found, given the opportunity, it can be found. And feel this potential in yourself to see this always in others, to always see this in yourself, that you are able to grow this heart energy, this love, and perhaps it begins with loving yourself, and feel it growing and growing, and allow this period right now of your life on earth to be about this recognition, to be about this understanding of love. It's all coming from within you, from within the very center of you always. And feel this love now as it comes from the center of your being, from an eternal space that is beginningless and endless. Feel it just vibrating. That excitement. Woo-hoo-hoo. What if I can love some more people today? What would it be like if I could just share a little joy with somebody else today? And if you are not feeling the joy yourself, go back deeper into your time, into your life, and find that joy. Find those little sparks and build on them. Add to those moments. Keep adding to them. Perhaps it does not come easily, and this is the work. Work on building the joy. And as you build the joy, notice what else it brings to you from all the other beings around you. And as you feel this love, gently opening your eyes, feeling the energy and the excitement of being here, of being human. Ooh, feeling the love.
Very nice. Very nice. You know, I also was thinking a couple of things when you talked about Neptune. One is that Neptune is the planet that we see. Neptune is the spectrum between the victim and the savior. So it is very strong when we're discussing how slavery or downtrodden manifests in a culture or a horoscope. So it's interesting that it is going direct right before this holiday that is not as I mean, we got through Columbus Day with the same sort of conversations, but Thanksgiving is also a kind of loaded holiday for the United States. And yeah, I could talk at length about this and have on my blog. I've written quite a bit about how the United States really is not going to be holistically sound until we reconcile what basically is the bringing to the table the First Nations. I happen to think the First Nations should be, they may not want to be really, but it's though they need a place at the table of the United States governing body, which is not the case at all. So until that happens, I think we will continue to be grappling with our very old wound. So anyway, Stoke the Fire is where you can find out, stokethefire.guru is where you can find out about how and why Susie and I do this every week. You can find out more about me at my website, insightoasis.com, where I do write about such things as the astrology of a nation or different timing things that come up because of that. Oh, and the other thing is November 22nd is the day that John F. Kennedy was shot, and they're talking about revealing a lot of these documents. So that's interesting too, with Jupiter in Scorpio and Neptune going direct that day. So InsideOasis.com is also where you can find out about my personal sessions and how I work with people one-on-one in either an ongoing or one-shot basis to kind of let you know where you're at now and where you're going to be going, because astrology is really good at timing. It's a forecasting art. So Susie, tell everybody what you do and where to find you.
And Pamela has very gracefully forecast a couple of retreats that I'll be leading coming up. One of them in the south of France, in the area where Mary Magdalene apparently lived with the family, and where the Knights Templar and the Cathars have a huge history. So we'll be going there in April. If you're interested to come on a trip and explore the land and do some deep spiritual work, please contact me directly, susiemazzoli-healer.com. And our trip is, I would say, quite full at the moment, but maybe we can squeeze one more person in. And we'll also be going to Peru in July. So I like to take these spiritual journeys all over the place. We typically go to Costa Rica and Nepal and Peru and now France. These are these sacred spots where there's so much energy and so much to learn. And otherwise, you can contact me for a healing session. I'm a professional homeopath and energy healing and spiritual guidance, and helping to work with people physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And I work remotely and in person in New York City. I also have a school, the Art of Energetic Healing School, which is run out of New York and upstate New York. And also next year we are starting a course in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, at the Beehive. And these courses are basically 12 days throughout the year. In New York and on the webinar, they're 1 day per month. And in Los Angeles, I'll be teaching the course over the year, doing 4 3-day workshops throughout the year. And during the course, we learn theory, we learn hands-on energetic work, we receive Reiki attunements, and we receive the 7 attunements into the chakras with the master teachers. And if you're interested to study with me, then please contact me at Energy Healing School, NY.com, and I'd love to hear from you. So another week down and a cup and zoom. We're doing so much all the time, but we hope that what Pam and I are sharing with you is helping, and hopefully it is reaching your heart and helping you also in many ways to reach out and love others. Thanks, Pam.
Okay. Okay. Many blessings. Have a wonderful week. See you next Monday.